back to Triple Threat Podcast. My name is William Ezel, and today we have some completely original content. We've got a tier list for the NBA. This is a list I found. I did not create this, so there are some missing notable players. I think someone like Vucevic is missing from this list. So if there's anyone missing, it's not me. I didn't make the tier list. I'm just using what I have. So if we forgot your favorite player, I apologize in advance. But let's get straight into this. Aaron Gordon. I think we're pretty much in agreement here, Ishan.
Yeah.
Scrub. It's not scrub. We changed it to what was it?
Forgettable.
Forgettable. And moving on, Andre Drummond. Can we say the same about him? I mean, he's forgettable, but he's a solid player.
I think I put him towards the bottom of solid. Because, yeah. So we'll have a lot of players ahead of him in the solid tier.
Now, here's where someone might say that he is a good player. Where do you have Andrew Wiggins?
I have him at the very top of solid.
I agree with you there. He is my number one player in solid. I think this was pretty obvious as well. Anthony Davis.
Forgettable?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Now, here's where we might start a little bit of controversy. Our first, a little controversial opinion. Where do we have Bam Adebayo?
All NBA. Number one. And number two, ahead of Embiid. The tier list is for players that the tier list is for next season and our predictions for next season. And I think that Bam is going to take such a massive leap on arguably a better team. And the Heat have kind of seen the potential and the unique skill set of Bam, and they're looking to build around him more. That's why they're probably not going to trade like Hero for Giannis. That's why just a couple hours ago they opted out of James Harden trade talks, because they are completely focused on building around Bam. And with that in mind, while he might not be the first scoring option, the whole team kind of revolves around him, and he will be the backbone, especially defensively. And that's why I have him in All NBA. Spoiler on me, I have him behind Jokic, but I do have him ahead of Joel Embiid and every other center in the league.
Now, here's one where I feel like we're going to have our first little bit of controversy here. Ben Simmons. I think that you're probably going to have him in All-Star, but I'm going to put him in All-NBA.
No, I have him there too.
All right. That's a nice little agreement there.
So earlier today, I actually did some research into stats. Like the last 4 or 5 episodes, I've been just repeatedly talking about defensive versatility. And I wanted to see if there was a way to quantify that. And there's this guy at Nylon Calculus. He is a good friend, I believe, of Thinking Basketball, Ben Taylor, the father of this channel. And he created a little metric that uses the percentage of like players guarding a certain position. So the percentage of possessions that a player guards point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. And if it's all 20% across the board, then your defensive versatility rating is 100. Now, there are obviously not any 100s, but for players that did play significant minutes, I believe that Ben Simmons was in the top 3 with a versatility rating of 84.6, which is really, really good. It shows that he can guard all 5 positions. It shows that he is a good team defender. And then also just looking at the way he plays, he gets steals, he hustles, and being the playmaker, he can make plays in the full court set after, getting a stop or getting a steal or block. He can be that guy to get the defensive rebound and get the transition going. And because of that, now that he has shooters, he has Embiid, I think that they've supplemented his talent really well, and he's going to make the jump necessary to launch him into the All-NBA category.
I couldn't agree with you more there. I think the score of 84 really shows what a great weapon he can be in the defensive end, because primarily you're not going to be switching between different positions within a game. That's telling you that he is constantly being matched up on the opposing team's best player, regardless of position. No matter who he's playing. If they're going up against the Lakers and LeBron or AD, he'll be on LeBron or AD. If he's going up against the Celtics, he'll be on Jason Tatum. If he goes up against a team like the Hawks, he's going to be on Trae Young. It doesn't matter who he's playing. He's going to be guarding the best man on that team. And I think that just really speaks to his value to a team. Now, we've got someone that we're a little low on. He is a dunk contest winner. He is a all-star. Where do you have Blake Griffin?
I have him at the very bottom of solid. I think that no, I have him below Drummond. You might not, but I really just despise Blake Griffin, to be very honest with you. So there's a little bit of bias there. I just hate the way he's approached basketball for the last couple of years now that he's in Detroit. With Chris Paul in LA, he was so much fun. He had that energy. But just a couple of days ago, there's this thing where they're getting back in transition, and just for no reason, he throws Thomas Bryant to the ground. And Thomas Bryant is the one that gets fined $50K for shoving the ref. So I just don't really like him. I think he's going to bring that kind of energy to a young Detroit team that needs veteran leadership more than Black Air Force action. And because of that, I have him at the bottom of solid because I don't think he's forgettable.
Yeah, but the name recognition of Blake Griffin, no matter how bad you're going to be talked about. Now we have someone who is not talked about at all. Bojan Bogdanovic. What do you have, Bogdan?
I have him in solid just because he is a very good player. Just because he is a 20-point scorer. And because of the fact that without him, the Jazz offense would be nowhere near as good as they are. Like, besides Mitchell and Clarkson, he is – actually, besides just Mitchell, he is the second option on this team, undoubtedly. And he's hit some pretty cool clutch shots. And he is a player that they can rely on in the late game situation to hit a clutch three.
Now, we're going to be starting our new category here. De'Aaron Fox. I know you don't have him in All-NBA, and I know you're not going to have him in solid. Where do you have De'Aaron Fox?
I have him at good, towards the top of good.
And before we get into this, I want to talk a little bit. We're going to have these in order, so see if we have Simmons over Bam or Bam over Simmons. That means we think that Bam is better than Simmons.
Wait, where did you have Bam and Simmons?
I had Bam right ahead of Simmons.
Oh, wow. I had Simmons right ahead of Bam. Yeah, we'll just keep Bam ahead of Simmons. I think it's a close enough gap. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But Fox is a very good player. We all know that. But I think that losing Bogdanovic really hurt him. And the way Luke Walton coaches is just going to stifle his game. And because of that, unless he finds a new coach, and some better teammates, to be very honest with you, I don't think he's ready to make the All-Star jump yet. But he's very close, and he's a very good player and deserving of an All-Star if he was in a better situation.
Now, someone who definitely deserves All-Star is Bradley Beal. I think that he has cemented himself as one of the best guards in the league. And his offensive just dominance is really impressive. What he can do from range, in the paint, overall, he's just an incredible offensive player. I think that with the partnership of Westbrook, just having a point guard this season after having Wall up for the past 2 years is really going to benefit his game. And I think that having the playmaking of someone like Russell Westbrook is going to be very valuable. I think in this team that's actually going to be competing in the East, Beal is finally going to get some much needed respect he deserves. And he will get an All-Star appearance this season. For sure.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because remember, back in the day, even though the East wasn't as strong back then, Wall and Beal were pretty much a playoff lock. Like the 4 to 5 seed, almost a lock. And they took Boston, the number 1 seed, back in 16-17 to 7 games with the whole Magic Isaiah Thomas season. And John Wall and Bradley Beal were at the forefront of that. Wall might have outshined Beal a little bit, but without Beal, they wouldn't have gotten that far. And now that he has a better supporting cast and as good of a point guard who I don't know if he's a better playmaker due to IQ, but who is still a very good playmaker, I think that Beal is going to benefit tremendously, and his efficiency will definitely increase.
Those are about the two most similar point guards for the Westbrook is the closest player to Wall, and Wall was the closest player to Westbrook, right?
Yeah,
Maybe,
for the
maybe throwing
quality of
De'Aaron
player.
Fox, but
For the quality of player that you're getting, yes.
and both of them are humongous contracts, but that is not important. We're moving on to Dennis Schroeder, someone coming off the bench for the Lakers this season. Where do you have the sixth man of the year candidate?
I actually have him in solid, but I think, yeah, I had him over Bogdanovich, but I'm not sure where you had him. We're kind of
I had him right behind Bogdanovich. I just think someone who can average 20 points a game is much more valuable.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So yeah, I had him right there at solid. He is a very good player, Dennis Schroeder, but coming off the bench, especially behind LeBron James, I don't know how much he's going to benefit from that. And then also the supporting cast that he'll probably have in the second rotation, I don't know how good it'll be compared to OKC.
Now, I'm going to have a controversial take here, and I know we're going to have a disagreement here, but I'm going to put Brandon Ingram right in All-NBA.
I had him in All-Star.
All right, so
at the back.
Well, let's discuss why I think Brandon Ingram is going to be All-NBA this season. I think, one, you look at positional strength. I think that at the small forward position, there's not a lot of players that can match his offensive and hopefully much improved defensive versatility. His mid-range game is one of the best in the league. I think on a team that has a lot of media attention, being the best player, and I think that's not even a question at this. I mean, I think the media will make it a question because they think Zion is the best player on this team. But this is Brandon Ingram's team. Brandon Ingram is the best player on this team. He deserves a supermax contract or his max contract, and I think this is the season. I'm going to be glad for him to get All NBA. I was praying he wasn't going to get All NBA last year because he would have gotten more money. And as a Pelicans fan, I mean, obviously for the player's sake, you hope he gets more money, but I want to maintain some more cap flexibility. I don't think 25 and $3 million are too much of a difference for him. So I think overall he's a plus on offense, and I think this season he's going to develop as defender. I think just overall with a better supporting cast and a team built around an identity, Brandon Ingram as a focal point of the offense and as a key player on defense will be a all NBA level player this season.
I had him in the All-Star, I think towards the top, so I didn't have him too far away from All NBA. But I just think that with guys like Durant, Anthony Davis, Giannis, Kawhi, Tatum, Jokic, Simmons, Bam, and Embiid, those are 9 out of the 10 forward spots. Or no, those are 8 out of the 9 forward spots for the All-NBA team. So that makes me wonder if he can get that 9th spot. And just because of that, I have him at the All-Star.
I was really banging on the fact that Ben Simmons takes over this team. And I think this leads perfectly into Joel Embiid because I think it's going to be the all-star category because I think that's going to become Ben Simmons' team. And that's just going to relegate Joel Embiid to the lower spots. Not going to because of anything towards him. I just think this team is geared around Ben Simmons, and that's just going to take the offensive load away from Joel Embiid. He's not going to have those incredible numbers he's been having. They'll still be great, but they won't be as impressive. I think for that reason, he'll be moved from the lower end All-NBA to the higher end All-Star.
I can see that happening. I do have him in All-NBA just because he is still a monster on defense, and he will still put up 22 plus points per games and 11 plus rebounds per game while being the second best defender on what could definitely be a top 5 defensive team in the league. And then also the fact that just kind of positionally, he's still a top 3 center in the league. I don't think anyone really doubts that. And because of that, he could sneak into the All-NBA team just for the fact that they want a center in that third team.
What would you think if something were to happen? If Simmons plays the 4, do you think that hurts Joel Embiid's value or his impact metrics at all?
Well, I think offensively it will probably hurt his value just because he might be asked to come out of the paint a little bit more often. And when he comes out of the paint, his value significantly decreases. But at the same time, he could be very effective as a screener for whoever does play the one. So, they pass it and then they get it down low to Simmons, or Embiid comes off of the roll. So we could see that happen too. But I think offensively, that definitely hurts his value. And defensively, just because of Simmons' versatility, I don't think that it will really hurt Embiid that much because Simmons will be playing all over.
Now let's move on to Buddy Hield. In relation to De'Aaron Fox, right behind him?
Oh, no. I had him in solid.
Ooh. I think that's a little bit of a disagreement we had. That's our first or third disagreement we have. I have him at the tail end of good.
Wow.
So is he better or worse than Andrew Wiggins, do you think?
I'd actually say slightly worse.
Do you think that's because of his usage in Sacramento?
I think that, yes, usage, number one. And then number two, this is for next season. And I kind of expect him to be moved into a situation where he's used less. And then three, he's very one-dimensional. And I prefer players that, like for example, even Fox, are at least extremely elite in one area of, at least extremely elite on offense or defense, or more two-way like how Fox is. And because of that, I have him in the solid category. Because if you look at someone like Bogdanovic, they're very similar players, kind of shooters and scorers, but they don't really offer as much on the defensive end. So that's why I had Hield kind of similar to Bogdanovic, and that's why I put him in the solid category.
I think that's a fair point. Well, I know where Carmelo's going to go, so forgettable or solid? He's not forgettable, so solid?
Yeah, towards the end. But I think, what's our definition of forgettable?
When you mention their team, you forget their name.
With we'll keep them solid.
I had a real conversation when I was thinking about putting him in forgettable, but I just think that his career saves him from the forgettable category.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on, we have Chris Paul. Now he's an all-star, right?
I think it's pretty easy. I don't think he's all NBA anymore, and I know he's better than guys like De'Aaron Fox. So I'll put him in all-star. He elevates his team. He makes the players around him better. And he will turn Phoenix from a fringe team to a playoff team. And I think we can both agree on that.
Now, where do you have CJ McCollum?
I had him in good.
Above or below De'Aaron Fox? That's a pretty good question there.
I had him below, actually.
As did I.
I think because of the abundance of wings that Portland has now with Derrick Jones, Covington, Gary Trent, who I expect to see a leap out of, Rodney Hood. I think that while his efficiency might improve. Oh, Anthony Simons. And obviously Lillard. He's not really a wing, but a lead guard. But I think that his scoring numbers will drop a little bit. And I question what outside of scoring can CJ McCollum do at somewhat of a high level. And because of that, I have him in good, below De'Aaron Fox, who's definitely a lot more well-rounded.
Now, where do you have your center, Clint Capella?
I had him towards the top of solid.
I think that's a pretty fair point. I have him right below Bogdanovic. Do we have him below or above the shooters?
I had him a little bit above Bogdanovic.
Sandwich him in between?
Yeah, we can switch him in between. How about that? That's fun.
Now here I know we're gonna have some disagreement. Kobe White. I have him right behind CJ McCollum.
I have Kobe White. I have him in good.
All right. I think I've
you definitely converted. You've converted me. Yeah.
I think we're saying that we're gelling our opinions into one, and I'm taking some of your takes, you're taking some of my takes. We're getting more of a combined list because we haven't had too many discrepancies. I mean, it's only between like the low end of all NBA and the upper end of all star.
Yeah, and that tier, that lower end of All NBA, upper end of All Star is so fluid. We can see a lot of movement. I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but there are All NBA caliber players that are in my All Star tier that just don't make it because of like luck or because maybe an injury or locker room issues. So those two tiers are pretty fluid, and we can see a lot of movement between them.
Now, here's one that is very interesting because it's really hard to predict where he's going to go. Colin Sexton.
I think that Sexton, he's in the solid tier for me. I had him above Drummond and below Schroeder. Yeah, right there. I think that he is a very good player. And I think really for him, he needs to improve his defense. He was not too far behind Trae Young in defensive PIPM, like being last. He was, according to this metric, the second worst defender in the NBA, which is definitely not something you want to be called.
Especially as someone being kind of heralded as a good defender coming out of college.
Yeah.
Or at least as a competent defender.
Yeah, like he's pretty athletic and he has the physical abilities to become, I wouldn't necessarily say a plus yet, but a small minus to a, I guess, kind of mediocre type player. But I think that with Okoro, it's really about him gelling with his young teammates. And because of that, we're going to see a lot of growing pains, and that's why I put him in solid.
Now, here's one I don't think we're going to have much disagreement on. After being disrespected for a while, he's at the upper echelon of all NBA.
Yep, exactly where I have him.
Moving on, D'Angelo Russell, someone who has been an all-star, and Brooklyn D-Lo definitely deserved to be in here. But in the West, where does he rank in the good category?
So I had him, this might be a little bit of a hotter take, but I had him in between De'Aaron and McCollum.
I'd be fine to have him there because I think as the leader of a team, especially getting the most minutes at the point guard position with someone that you're familiar with in Karl-Anthony Towns, I think he'll be able to have a good season.
Yeah. And I think that just De'Aaron is a little bit more well-rounded, especially on the defensive side of the ball. D'Angelo Russell in defensive PIPM was 12th or 13th to last, so he's definitely a minus on that end. And just as a whole, that Minnesota defense is going to be allowing a lot of points, and him and Towns will kind of be at the forefront of that. And because of that, he's going to get lost in the mix for all-star level players.
Now, this is someone that could go in either good or solid. Where do you have Gallinari?
Actually, let me check. I had Gallinari behind Kobe White in good.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think he's right in the upper echelon of the solid category. I think when you're talking about guys, if you're going to put Bojan and Buddy in the solid category, I think someone like Gallinari, who is a minus on the defensive end, and will just be an offensive scorer and kind of one-dimensional in that sense, should be in the solid category.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's just a little biased, to be very honest with you.
Now, where do you have Danny Green, a shooter who has been much maligned for his playoff performances last season?
Did you see the game a couple days ago where he just like completely airballed it? I felt bad for him.
Something's up. He's got to go to Markelle Fultz therapist.
Yeah, but remember, he's also a very good team defender. And with Doc Rivers and Philly as a whole being a very good defense-oriented type team, I think that he brings a plus on that end. And that's why I have him in the solid tier, ahead of Melo, ahead of Blake. Did I have him ahead of Drummond? Oh, I had him right behind Drummond.
Now we move on to Demar Derozan.
Demar Derozan.
All right, he's good?
Good. Let's see. Where do I have him? I had him ahead of Kobe.
I'll keep him behind for now. I just think Kobe just offers a little bit more.
Yeah, and there's so many wings in that San Antonio offense that Popovich will be doing a little bit of experimentation. So DeRozan could get lost in the sauce a little bit.
Oh, here's an interesting one. Derrick Rose. I mean, he's not forgettable, but at this point, being on this Detroit team, I mean, not many people are talking about Derrick Rose, are they?
He's ahead of Blake for sure. And I think I have him ahead of Danny Green. Let's see. But yeah, right behind Drummond. Yeah, right there.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and put. This is a tough one. Do you put Book ahead or below Embiid? I had him right ahead of Embiid.
That is actually a very tough one. I think that he could be ahead of Embiid, especially on the offensive end with Chris Paul. We saw what Chris Paul did to Harden. His only MVP season came with Chris Paul as the point guard. And Booker's no Harden, don't get me wrong with that, but he is still a very, very elite scorer. And he proved that he could win games and not just put up empty stats. And I can see him ahead of Embiid. I personally disagree, but I think that it does make sense.
Moving on, Devonta Gramps, someone that your Hawks drafted and traded on draft night. Where do you have him in the? Yeah, I think so. I'm fairly confident in that.
Okay, first Chris Paul, now Devonta Graham. Cool. I had him in the solid category, right behind, ahead of Drummond, behind Schroeder. I still think that he will get valuable minutes behind LaMelo Ball, and he will be kind of that safety net when LaMelo Ball goes haywire and needs to be pulled out of the game. Devontae was still a very good player last year, and on the offensive end, he proved to be that kind of leader for Charlotte. And I don't think that this would work, but a LaMelo Devontae backcourt could be interesting offensively. Defensively would just be abysmal, though.
Now, where do you have Domantas Sabonis? Because he's someone that can be in the good category, but I had him right in the upper echelon of solid.
I think that Domantas Sabonis is I had him in the good category. I had him between White and CJ. He was still an all-star last year, and he was a bright spot for a Pacers team that kind of disappointed in my eyes. And with my prediction of Miles Turner being gone by the deadline and maybe even Oladipo, he'll get even more chances to show his offensive capabilities.
I think that's a fair point. So I'll bring him up into the lower end of the good category. Where do you have Donovan Mitchell? Is he going to be an all-star this year, or is he going to be relegated to the good category?
Oh, no, he's an all-star for sure. Because when you look at Utah, this team is set up to be a very, very good defensive team. But without Mitchell, it's like losing the engine of a car almost. He is the engine that drives this offense and like on all cylinders. And he's so impactful offensively to this team that I don't want to say it completely negates, but it negates some of his defensive I'm not going to call him a liability, but some of his defensive issues. But those are kind of masked because he's in such a great team system. But offensively, he's so impactful for his team. I can't see why he wouldn't be an all-star.
Now, here's an interesting debate. Is Draymond Green still the good player he was? Because he definitely fell out of all-star. But can he keep his spot in good?
He's definitely fallen out of all-star. But I did keep him in good behind Sabonis, obviously. Because Draymond is better when his teammates are better. We saw that he is an all-star level player with Curry and Clay and Durant and Barnes or Bogut even. But when he has to be with a bad team, his talents kind of don't really translate well. But he still is a vocal leader. He seems like an actual good influence in the locker room. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. And now that Curry is back, now that Wiggins is there, now that Oubre is there, he will slide right in, be that defensive Swiss Army knife that he was, especially in Kerr's system, and he'll be one of the primary playmakers. So guys like Wiggins and Oubre can get their open shots off.
Now, So in a new system and going to be given a much more prominent role, Eric Bledsoe, where do you think he ranks in this list?
I had Bledsoe actually at solid.
Uh, Above or below Gallo?
I had him. Well, remember I had Gallo in good, so
That's
I
true.
guess below, but above Buddy, above Buddy.
Now, here's someone that's very forgettable, Evan Fournier. I think
Yeah.
that this Magic team as a whole, I mean, they're a solid team, but I mean, it's hard to rank them as anything
Unless
else.
it's like Vucevic, Isaac, or a guy that we'll see later on this list, Markelle. This team is pretty forgettable.
I think it's just funny how this team is so forgettable that they forgot their best player when they made this list.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. I didn't even think of that. They're so forgettable that Vegas didn't put Chuma Okeke in the top 23 in Rookie of the Year odds. They had Isaiah Stewart, who's just like a shape in front of him.
Now, where do you have the bag man himself, Fred VanVleet?
I think that he earned his bag.
He's in the same category as the buddies in the Bojans.
Oh wow, I had him in good.
I just think that as a one-dimensional player, I think that his spot is in the upper echelon of good.
Upper echelon, good or solid?
I mean, upper echelon of solid. I mean, because I think that he's a little one-dimensional. I think you can talk about him as the same way you'll talk about guys like, I don't want to say CJ, but he's like a bad version of CJ. I mean, he's a good scorer, but
He seems a little bit more well-rounded though.
Yeah, he is undersized, so he's scrappy on defense, but just that height advantage in the league is going to be really, really hard to overcome for a lot of players.
Yeah.
But we can move him up for a bottom of good for now, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, George Hill. I mean,
George
right
Hill
now,
is...
as of right now, he is forgettable. No one knows what team he's on. He's on the Thunder.
Yeah.
But
he's good too.
Yeah, but I think though I don't think you can put him in forgettable because he's such an elite shooter. But the fact that he is on that team right now, I'm just gonna put him right above Graham because he's an incredible shooter. But if you were to take it as face value of what team he's on right now, he's unforgettable because he's on the Thunder and no one cares. But the fact is he's gonna get traded, and I think that it's a prediction video, so he'll go unsolved.
I think GMs know what he is capable of, especially on the offensive end. And if you're a contender in need of a shooter, which there are many contenders in need of an extra shooter to make that push in the playoffs, Hill is your guy.
Now, here's one that's pretty unquestionable. Giannis.
Oh, forgettable. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see. Goran Dragic.
So, should Giannis have stayed? Do you think that it was the right decision to stay in Milwaukee?
I'm very proud of him for being loyal. I think that he does have the right coach, and he has a few good players that can, supplement his talent. It's really now on Milwaukee's GM to provide him with the right talent. And I think that Drew Holiday move and the attempted Bogdanovich move was evidence that he commands respect and he takes command of like some of the GM's decisions. So I think it's good of him to stay in Milwaukee. I always love loyalty. And this is a situation where he could win. So it's not like he's in a hopeless situation and just being loyal for the hell of it.
Yeah, I really respect loyalty in the decision to stay. I hope this guy stays loyal too, but we'll get to him in a second. The thing is though, I don't think he'll win a championship in Milwaukee. I just think that the salary that he's going to command and the market that they're in, they're not going to be able to attract anyone in free agency. And with the draft capital that they don't have, they're not going to be able to partner him with anyone notable in the draft. So a lot of the moves are going to have to be made through trades. I just think that giving up all the assets for Drew Holiday puts them in a position where they're going to be really, really hard pressed to make a team around Giannis. So if they want to make a run to the championship, it's going to have to be like a LeBron type performance from 2008. What was that the year he carried that garbage Cavs team?
7 or 8. But this team is not garbage. There are two all-star caliber players and a good amount of role players. I think it's more depth and shooters. George Hill, for example. Now, I do have one question. Looking at the superstar tier right now, we have two guys in there, Giannis and AD. Do you have AD over Giannis?
I think so.
Me too.
I think that as a defender, AD is a better player. I think that AD's skill set offensively is a lot more versatile, which allows him to be a little bit more difficult to guard and to match up on one, especially in a system with LeBron James. It's a prediction of how they're going to finish the season. I think that being the second option or the first option on offense and just having the pressure being taken away is just going to help AD thrive and just be a better player.
So Goran Dragic, the one-time forgettable All-Star. Would you consider him forgettable? Because I feel like he kind of gets lost with guys like Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam. Now, I had him in solid, kind of towards the bottom, but would you consider him, do you think he's approaching that forgettable point?
I think he is. I think that's really just really harsh. I think that us as NBA fans are always going to respect Goran Dragic and what he can do. But if we're considering what the definition of forgettable is, when you talk about their team, is Goran Dragic a guy that you remember? When you think, the Heat team that made the finals. Now you got Bam, you got Jimmy, you got Tyler Hero, you got Duncan Robinson, you have I might forget. I don't think I'd forget Goran Dragic, but if you were to talk to a casual, I certainly think you would.
A bot. So Ja Morant, I have him in the All-Star tier.
I do as well, but I have him at the very, very tail end.
Yeah, I have him at the bottom.
Jamal Murray, right ahead of him.
Yeah.
Just being he really just showed an emergence last season of what he can be offensively. I think we know the reasons why, but we won't get into that. James Harden. This is a difficult question. Is he all NBA or is he a superstar? I haven't. No,
he's a superstar. He's a superstar.
He's a superstar. He is the last player I have him superstar. He is
me as well.
I have 8, and he is the 8th of 8 superstar.
I have 8 too, and I think we have the exact same 8 players. And I think that every analyst or even a casual will tell you that these 8 are head and shoulders above everyone else. And on the offensive end, is there an argument for Harden being the best offensive player in the league? Even with
I thought
Durant?
I think that it's a non-starter. He is the best offensive player in the league. I thought you were going to say best offensive player of all time. I was going to be a little hesitant there, but I think he's approaching the category of one of the better offensive players of all time because what he does, whether you like to watch, I hate watching James Harden.
I love watching James Harden.
That's just me, but I don't think you can discredit what he does because his step back or double step back threes are incredible. His maneuverability is great. What he does to gain the system and get to that free throw line. Like I hate watching him shoot 18 free throws a game, but I mean that's 17 free points he's going to get a game, and that just makes him such a valuable player.
And I think that I think you're absolutely right. That step back in particular, because if someone bites on the step back, he is still nasty. He is still ferocious. He will drive to the rim, either draw a foul, get an and one. He probably has an insane layup package that we really haven't even seen. We've only seen glimpses of. So I think that he is probably he's probably the best offensive player in the league. I think Curry, Durant, because I'd say the primary competitor is Durant, but we don't know how.
Or Luka. I think you can put Luka in that category pretty soon.
Yeah, we can put Luka. Or even LeBron just because of playmaking, but I think that Harden's a very good playmaker too, so he is the best offensive player in the league.
No, I have a little controversial take. All-Star does not mean I think they're going to make an All-Star team. I just think they're an All-Star caliber player. And I think Jaren Jackson is a better player than Ja Morant, so I'm going to have him right a smidgen ahead of him.
I had him at the top of good just because of the injury, and I think it's going to take him a little while to recover. But I think that Ja Morant is still the leader of this team. He can score, he can pass, he can drive. Offensively, he is the offensive engine of the team. And because of that, while Jaren Jackson is probably the best defender on the team and the second best offensive player, I think that he won't he doesn't have that kind of leadership and killer instinct that John Morant has. And to be honest, most of the players in the All-Star category, in my opinion, even in the All-NBA category, don't have that killer instinct that John Morant has. He's just a different breed.
I think that's a fair point about the injury. He's not going to be the all-star caliber player I think he is for the first part of the season. So it'll take him until March to do that. So I think that he has to be relegated to good for that.
I had him right there.
Now,
Number one good.
If he was in the all-star category, he's definitely the number one good in my opinion. So moving on, we have Jalen Brown. Now the question is, where do we rank him in all-star? Is he above Jamal Murray or is he behind them all? Because I think I have him right here.
So I have him above Morant for sure. And I do have him above Jamal Murray just because of the two-way ability and the fact that I believe that Boston will be a better team than Denver. And that with Gordon Hayward gone, we'll see more minutes opened up for Jalen Brown. And so for that reason, and the fact that defenses will have to key in on Murray a little bit more this season, so he can't really recreate his magic as much, I think that I have Jalen Brown in the All-Star category.
Now, this is a second-time appearance here. Jason Tatum. He was third team last season. Do you think he'll be third team or second team this year?
So if he's a forward and LeBron and Luka are guards, there's Durant, there's Davis, there's Giannis, there's Kawhi.
I think he's second team because...
Second team. Yeah, second team.
Now moving on, we got Jimmy Butler. Now, I have him as All-NBA. Do you agree?
So I actually, when I was making the list, I had my All-NBA, but he was at... You know what? Yeah. Wait 1 second. I got to do a little rearrangement.
I think his defensive ability puts him ahead of Beal and Booker, in my opinion. And I think that since he's the leader of that team, that'll put him ahead of Beal as well. And then offensively, he's not too far behind either of those guys. Obviously, both of these guys are much, much better shooters and provide much more offensively. But his defensive ability and leadership and
leadership's a big thing.
And what he brings to the culture of that team. I mean, he led the team to the finals last season. Like, he's an All-NBA player.
Yeah.
Now,
and the guy that I had above him initially in All-NBA, I relegated that guy down to All-Star, unfortunately, but he's still towards the top of the All-Star category, and we'll see him towards the end of the video.
Now, moving on, we have Joe Ingles. Forgettable. We love Joe Ingles. I meant sorry.
There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah. Those Instagram comment sections where it's like Joe Ingles and it's just like a page full of like daily Joe Ingles.
Oh, I love daily Joe Ingles.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I see like 7 of those on every Bleacher Report, ESPN, CBS type comment.
My favorite one was Daily Ben Simmons.
And then he hit the 3.
And then he had to retire.
Yeah, that was sad.
If you know what we're talking about, there was an Instagram page that posted a photo of Ben Simmons every day until he made a 3-pointer in the league. And he was up for several hundred days.
Yeah, he was. He was like 278, I think.
Moving on, we have John Wall. I have him an all-star, but where do you have him? Do you have him above Jamal or below Jamal? I have him right above.
I actually have him below Jamal. And this might be surprising, but I even have him below John Morant. But we can put him in the middle.
We'll put him in the middle because I have him above and you have him below, so that's where he goes.
I think that an Achilles injury is so tough to recover from that until really the end of the season where he's proven that he's fully recovered, those first 2 months he's not going to be playing up to full speed just yet. But there's no denying the talent that this man brings and the fact that he will be a pretty good fit with Harden and just a good overall leader to this Houston Rockets team that, has suffered a little bit.
Remember, half-speed Wall is probably still the 3rd fastest player in the league.
Westbrook, Oladipo. Yeah, he's up there.
Moving on, Josh Richardson. I have him at the top end of solid.
Me too. I think he's going to benefit tremendously from Luka. And on the defensive end, we'll really see his abilities tested as the primary wing defender in Dallas now that he's going to be replacing Seth Curry. I think that with Luka there and the floor spacing that they have and the overall system that they have, we can see him improve as an offensive player a lot. But I think that I wouldn't put him above Gallo or Wiggins just yet.
Now, here's a really interesting conversation. Drew Holiday, is he still an all-star?
He's towards the bottom for me. He was behind Moran. I think he was actually the very last player, but he is still. I think that in the system where Eric Bledsoe was almost an all-star a couple of years ago, Drew Holiday should definitely be in that conversation.
I had him right at the top of good just because of the amount of really good guards I predict coming through this season. But there's no question he is a top 3 defensive wing in the league. He is definitely one of the best defensive. He is the best or second best defensive point guard in the league, and his offensive game, while it is declining, is still very solid. So I can see him being an all-star, but I had him at the tippy top of good.
I think his playmaking will supplement Middleton and Giannis really well. And he's not the best shooter, but his scoring will be an upgrade over Bledsoe in my eyes.
Someone who I won't let you convince me is an all-star is Karl-Anthony Towns. He is good. He is not an all-star. His defensive ability will never make him an all-star. I think that his offensive metrics, you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh, he's a top 5 fantasy player. He has so many rebounds and so many points. How is he not an all-star? Because he's not contributing to a winning team. And I think that until he shows that he can make the playoffs as a leader of a team without Jimmy Butler. Actually, did they make the playoffs with Jimmy Butler? No, they did. They made the playoffs with Jimmy Butler.
They were the 8 seed.
Yeah. The fact that Jimmy barely got this team the 8 seed and got the Heat, a much less talented team, not less talented. Bam is fairly similar.
No, that Heat team was much better.
You think so? Who was on that team?
Think about it. Like, on that Minnesota team, there was
Wiggins and Cat.
Wiggins, Cat, Teague, and Taj Gibson. And then you had your choice of, like, for the Heat, Goran, Tyler, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn, plus Jimmy, obviously. And then you had Bam, and I guess your weak link was Myers Leonard, Kelly Olynyk.
I think it's a better team, but I think it's a better fit in Miami. I think that you look at the talent perspective, and I'm not going to say they're better NBA players, but Cat is by far and away one of the most talented players. And Andrew Wiggins is by far one of the most talented players. So I think by a talent perspective, that Timberwolves team is definitely more talented. But I think that Heat team was just a lot better of an NBA team. So moving on, Kawhi Leonard. Where do you have him as superstar? Because I have him right above James Harden.
I have him in between Giannis and Harden.
Now, where do you have Kelly Oubre? Above 80 or below him?
Okay, so go to the superstar tier. To the right, there's a little settings button. Okay, add or above. Kelly Oubre. All right, cool.
We will keep this away for the rest of the video, but in case you were wondering how we actually feel about Kelly Oubre, I have him
in the good tier.
I have him in the good tier as well. I think I can't find his picture in my reference video.
I think you might have had him an all-star.
No, I had him right at the end of good, right here. But he will stay here because Oubre is his own tier. Moving on, we have Kimba Walker. Now, is he an all-star? Because he has a case to be so, but I have him right at the top of good.
I have him at the top of good as well. That hurts me so much to say because I love Kemba so much, but I think that with the increased roles of guys like Tatum, Smart, and Jalen Brown, I think that Kemba will kind of start to fade away a little bit. He's getting up there in age too, but he will still be a very valuable piece to a Celtics team that's looking to contend for a title. So don't get me wrong about that. He'll still score 20-plus points per game, but he's not going to be that prime Charlotte Hornets Kemba that we saw a couple years ago.
Well, they want to trade him, so do we care anymore about this undrafted guy? No, he was a great rookie of the month, Kendrick Nunn, but he fell off a cliff, and they don't want him. So
Yeah, he's not sustainable in the playoffs, and that really hurt his stock.
now here's an interesting question. He is undoubtedly here, but
Yeah.
is he going to be here or here this season?
So I actually had him between AD and Giannis.
All right. I had him right in between Giannis and Kawhi.
Interesting. He's undoubtedly an amazing player. He is 7 feet tall, can score from anywhere on the court, and plays good enough. He's a plus on the defensive end too. I think the questions revolve a little bit more around his team. How will Brooklyn fare out? They're a very polarizing team. They could either implode or win the East, and either one wouldn't really surprise me. But I think that Kevin Durant, I want to see some more leadership out of him, especially dealing with Kyrie and some of the other younger guys before I can put him over AD. And then also, like Wall, an Achilles injury is an Achilles injury. It's the worst injury that you can have in sports, pretty much. I don't really...
More so in basketball, because I think in football it's a lot easier to come back from. And it's actually a lot more common in
especially
football.
in basketball.
I think guys you look at,
Yeah,
I think Sheldon Rankins last season, and he already came back, and we saw him last night play really well, and he's young. But in basketball, if this happens to you at this age, usually it's a career ender. And that's why I think that we're not going to have it 100% KD, because 100% KD is here.
100% KD is the second best player in the league.
That's why I think a 90% KD is going to be right there.
And that's still saying something about KD.
He is incredible. Kevin Love. He's forgettable, but does his talent bring him to solid?
His talent definitely brings him to solid. And, yeah, I had him right there.
Now, moving on,
Drummond.
Chris Middleton. I don't think he's going to maintain his all-star streak this season. I think I have him right there and good.
I had him as an all-star towards the back quarter of it because he is still very efficient. He's still in a very similar situation. And I think that Drew Holiday is more of a better fit for him. He can be a little bit more mobile on defense. And I think that Drew Holiday will create more chances for him than Bledsoe and will kind of ease off the scoring load a little bit. So his efficiency will go up. And so because of that, I had him in the back half of all-star.
For the complete opposite reason, I think Drew Holiday actually minimizes Chris Middleton's at least all-star impact. I think he'll be a more efficient player, but efficiency doesn't get you into the all-star because then we'd have guys like JJ Redick and George Hill and Seth Curry in the all-star game every year. And we don't because, they're not that level player. And obviously Chris Middleton is a head and shoulder above all those guys. But I think Chris Middleton will have his roles significantly decreased on the offensive end from 22 points a game to around 19. And I think that scoring 19 as an offensive shooting guy first, I think that you're ahead of the shooters like these guys for sure. But I don't think you're in that category of all-star. And then bringing someone over like Drew Holiday from the West, it's just going to take this all-star spot in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. But also a couple years ago, he made the all-star game on 18 points a game. I think if he's at 19, which is very realistic, he could squeeze in. And I think his assist numbers and rebounding numbers and some of his other non-scoring numbers will increase. And because of that, his all-star value will actually increase a little bit.
Now, we're not going to rank Clay because he's not playing this season. So as much as we would like to talk about Klay Thompson, unfortunately, he's just not going to be playing this season. So moving on to another unhealthy player, it's Kristaps Porzingis, but at least he's going to play this season. And I think it's just unfortunate to see that someone this talented always is hurt. And the thing is that, what is this, his second most healthy season since leaving, since 2016?
He made the all-star game.
Yeah, I think this is his second most healthy season he's had, and that's saying a lot because he's already hurt. So where do we have
missed the all-star game?
Where do we have Kristaps Porzingis? Because is he an all-star? But just like Triple J, is he going to be pushed down to good because of his health? I think he's good enough to keep himself in.
I think so too. He's definitely towards the back. Definitely behind Jamal. And yeah, between John and Ja. Because remember, he is a very, very talented and unique player and a very impactful player and influential player to the rest of the NBA with that whole unicorn type thing. You see so many skinny unicorn type centers now coming out of college and high school trying to become the next Porzingis. So he has that going for him, but that really doesn't do much here. He is still a 40% plus shooter in my eyes from three, and he can still rebound, block shots. And with Luka, one of the most well-rounded offensive players in the league at his side, I think that he'll do better than any season in New York.
Well, moving on, we've got Kyle Kuzma. He's a solid player, but I don't think we'll have any qualms putting him right in between those guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving on, Kyle Lowry. Is he still an all-star in your opinion? Because for me, he ranks right there.
I actually still think he's an all-star. And I know that I don't know how much we're taking into playoff consideration, but especially over guys like Kimba Walker, Ja Morant, Murray. Yeah, over those three, I'd rather have him in the playoff just because of the fact that he has no glaring weakness. He can score. He can shoot efficiently. He can pass. For a guard of his stature, he can rebound and get the ball in transition. And he's in a very good defensive situation. He hustles on defense, and he has been a consistent plus on the defensive end. And there's no guy in the league that even comes remotely close to having the courage to take a charge against LeBron James like he did. So that in itself, that's I want to calculate the momentum. Like if there's any like velocity measure there, figure out like the momentum and
force equals mass times acceleration. LeBron's accelerating at what, 3.5 meters a second?
Yeah. We have the mass, and then we get his velocity for momentum, acceleration for net force. Yep, triple threat physics.
Triple threat physics. Well, moving on, we have Kyrie Irving, undoubtedly one of the best point guards in the league, but this season, right there.
Oh wow, I had him at the very top of All-Star.
I just think Bradley Beal's a better player than him. I think I can see him around. I don't think I can put him above Joel. Chris Paul is a difficult competition for me, where I'd put him between Chris Paul. But I think just Chris Paul being more of a presence on the court. Like
yeah, I can see that.
If you were having a one-on-one or a Suns net matchup, I think that Chris Paul would come out as the better player just because of his defensive ability.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, in terms of just pure offensive skill,
there's not.
You could make an argument that Kyrie is top 5 in the NBA in that. And remember, that offensive skill led to wins. Like in Boston, he proved to be a more impactful player in terms of winning than even Isaiah Thomas did. And before that injury, in his first season in Boston, before kind of Tatum and even Tatum kind of took over, Kyrie was that guy. He was averaging 25-something points per game. He was all over the floor on offense. And Boston went on some crazy, 13-plus game win streak. And Kyrie was the catalyst, and he was there kind of spearheading it all. And so because of that, I still view him as a better player than guys like Bradley Beal, even Booker. And just because of the abundance of guards, I put him in the all-star category. But like I said before, it's so fluid. We could very well see him in the all-NBA team again.
Yeah, I guess I see him on the same tier as these guys. These guys are pretty much the same offensive maestros. So I swear, Kyrie Irving has telekinesis because what he does finishing the basketball at the hoop is some magic. It's some sorcery. his balance is ridiculous. And then those his layup package is unmatched. There's no player in the league with a better layup package than Kyrie Irving. Like
Yeah.
he can make a layup blindfolded 360s on his back while falling over. I mean, he defies the laws of physics. We're talking about LeBron's physics. This guy breaks the rules, and they're on the same team together. That was a fun team to watch.
It
Now,
was.
moving on, he have Lamarcus Aldridge. I have him right behind his teammate in Demar Derozan.
Yeah, me too. I have him in that exact spot.
Actually, I have him right ahead of DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, I had him behind. Tough.
It doesn't really matter. They're like the same.
Yeah.
I'm moving on
Old
to
guys, kind of dated.
Yeah, but they're even though they're dated in style, they're still performing at a reasonable level. Now, Laurie Marketed, where do you have him in the solid category? Because I have him right behind Kuzma.
Laurie Markkinen, I had him ahead of Kuzma. Let's see. Where is he right now? I had him ahead of Kuzma, ahead of Hill, and behind Schroeder.
So we'll average.
Yeah.
So he has the potential to be a great player, being a great shooter at his size, but I just think that he's been a little bit of a letdown. And I really like to see with this Bulls emergence I'm predicting this season, he can be instrumental to that. If he develops into a 40% shooter this season and a volume shooter at that, opening up space for Wendell Carter is just going to be great for both of their development. So he can be the key to the Bulls' success. It's on him whether he's going to develop. And I just don't see the sign of it happening because he can easily become a player over here. But for now, right there. Moving on, LeBron James. I have him as my number 1.
2.
2 behind Oubre.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to say? Because he's LeBron. I don't think there's much.
There's nothing. There's nothing really else to add. He's proven once again that he is the second best player in basketball.
Now, where are you going to put Alonzo? I have him right ahead of Bledsoe, but I know you have him right behind.
I had him a little behind Bledsoe in the solid category.
I just think the potential that Lonzo offers to this offense, and we've seen his shooting ability. He's working with Vincent Stanley. Is it Vincent Stanley? The coach that I think it is. But anyways, Vincent, whatever his name, he did a great job with branding him last season, and Lonzo saw the work that it required Brandon to take the leap and become Fred Vincent.
Yeah,
I had Vincent right.
Yeah.
But Fred Vincent is a really, really, really good coach. And I think that everyone at the Pelicans wants to work with Fred Vincent, but not everyone has the time. Fred Vincent doesn't have the time to work with everyone. But I think Lonzo's really going to develop. His shot has gotten exponentially better. I still don't want him taking a transition 3, but as JJ Redick said, if you stop passing the ball, just shoot it.
It's confidence. That's a big part of it.
And I think players like JJ Redick will really help with that because even though everyone in the Pelicans would rather see him pass the ball, getting his shot and just seeing him make some shots is going to be good for him and good for the team. And then being able to stretch the floor will open up so much for his creative passing and just overall this offense. If he can become a floor spacer, which is going to be a very hard ask, but if he can shoot 35% this season from 3, I would be very impressed with Lonzo.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Lou Will next. This one's kind of tough. Not going to lie.
I think he goes into the old guys category down here.
Yeah, especially with the fact that he doesn't bring much else besides scoring. I think putting him in solid towards that end of the pack, that's justified.
I just noticed this list is very disrespectful without without Karis LeVert on here, so apologies for that. But he'd probably be somewhere in the low good, high solids.
Definitely.
Moving on, Luka Doncic, where do you have him, above or below Giannis is the question.
I can't believe I'm saying this, above Giannis.
As I do too.
Is that a hot take?
I don't know. Probably because of the defensive value that Giannis brings. But
yeah, that's true.
Just Luka is born scorer, walking bucket. I think there's no better player from Europe. I think that he'll be he'll go down as the greatest European ever. I'm trying to think of anyone better than Tony Parker, better than
Dirk.
Dirk. We don't count Kobe, do we?
No, Kobe went to high school here.
What the hell? Yeah, but he was technically international.
Yeah, but like, I guess the way you look at it is if they're drafted from
No.
drafted international.
How about this? International, as in they play for an international. For an international country. Because you look at guys like Ben Simmons is international, but he went to LSU.
Yeah.
So I think he'll go down.
I think so too.
I mean, he's got a lot of competition to go down with Dirk because Dirk is a phenomenal player. But same team, Luka's already proving. I mean, nothing can beat that run to the championship that Dirk did, but it's hard to do. Moving on, Malcolm Brogdon. Where do you have him? I have him right at the end of good, right behind his teammate Sabonis.
This might be shocking, but I actually have him. Let's see. I have him above McCollum.
Above McCollum?
Actually, above D'Lo. Wow.
I can see that. I'm not too fussed about that. He's a great player. I wish Milwaukee kept him. I really do.
I don't think he would have gotten as big of a role, but he is so valuable on all ends of the court. I think that he is very deserving of the good tier.
Now, Markelle Fultz. I mean, he's proving to be a solid player.
Yeah. And he's definitely not forgettable. He's the only Orlando player that... Oh, wow, that is high.
I thought him over. Nah, yeah, he's not better than those guys. Mark... Yeah, this is his range.
That's a little bit higher than me, but that seems about right.
Montrezl Harrell.
This one's kind of tough. Because I think that the fact that he's undersized and the fact that he is more of an interior player, that hurts him a lot, especially on a contending team. I think I'd put him towards the top of solid.
Ooh, I had him towards the middle of solid, just because of his role in the team. But I'll put him
actually. I had him.
He's behind Schroeder for sure.
I had him below Schroeder actually.
Nikola Jokic. Where are you putting him in All NBA? I know you said ahead of.
Bam. Yeah, right there. I still think that he is so valuable offensively to his team.
Spicy P, I have him in All-Star right behind Embiid.
Spicy P, let's see. Oh, that's my bookmarks.
I think Spicy P deserves to be that spot. He is now second year as the man on the team. His offensive game and defensive game is just brilliant.
Yeah, and we'll see improvement out of it.
I think that's all we can say. Patrick Beverley, I think, although I think you got to put him in forgettable.
Yeah, I would put him in forgettable. I'd put him at the very top of forgettable.
Now, here we have Paul George, someone who's taken a lot of slack, but still a great player. I have him right above Booker.
I had him actually right behind Booker, but
I had him right behind Booker too, but I didn't. I've been known to have a lot of Paul George slander, so I didn't want any more Paul George slander. So
yeah, he's still a very good player, and he's a lot more motivated this year than maybe we've ever seen before. Even coming after that horrific injury, we all know what he's capable of, especially on both ends of the floor, and hopefully he can become that vocal leader of the team that Kawhi Leonard really can't be, and that Paul George was back in Indiana in the Roy Hibbert days.
I think the defensive value he brings is put him ahead of Booker.
Yeah.
Now, someone who is for sure forgettable is Ricky Rubio. I think 50% of people would not tell you what team he's on because, backup point guard for the Timberwolves, right?
Is he on the Timberwolves?
Exactly, forgettable.
Ricky Rubio.
He is on
the Timberwolves.
See, when you think of the team, do you think of Ricky Rubio? No, you do not, because you didn't know what team he was on. Ricky Rubio is unforgettable.
Wait, so who did he get traded for?
It was last season. He was on the team last season, right?
He was on the Suns last season.
I can't tell. I knew he was on the Timberwolves. I didn't know how long he was. But definitely fits the description.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett.
Oh, he was in the Chris Paul trade, and it must have been like a 3-team deal.
All right. Moving on. RJ Barrett, where do you have him? I have him right up behind. Wait, no.
I definitely have him behind Bledsoe.
I think I have him. Oh, I have him very low. But I was wrong. I'll put him right there.
Yeah, I have him towards the middle, like the middle of the pack.
Now, this is a little bit of a hot take. I have Rudy Gobert at the bottom of good.
Yeah, me too.
Not very good. Not worth being paid more than every single guy ahead of him except for, Harden? Wait, no. Who's paid more than him? Is it Curry?
Harden. I know Curry and Harden definitely are. I think those are the only
I think there's only two.
Largest contract.
Because he's the third largest, and it makes sense for Curry and Harden to be the number 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's sad.
Now moving on to someone who else is extremely high paid, Russell Westbrook. I have him in the All-Star category right there. No, right behind Ja.
Wow, I think that he's going to benefit tremendously from the system that he's in, and I have him towards the middle of the pack.
All right, I'll move him up a couple spots.
Behind.
I think behind Wall.
Yeah, behind Wall.
Now here's a hot take. I have Shai at the end of All-Star.
Hey, me too. Yeah, I have him.
Cool.
I think I had him ahead of Porzingis just because of the health reasons, but yeah, Shai, I feel like will be an all-star player. And the thing with empty stats is empty stats are defined as, in my opinion, they don't lead to wins and they're inefficient. So I think Shai, he will contribute on both ends of the floor to OKC's wins, despite them not having many wins.
But he'll have more. He'll definitely make sure they'll have more wins than without him.
Yeah, and they'll be pretty efficient. So because of that, it's not pure empty stats.
Now here we have Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he's top tier good.
Top tier good. Oh,
yeah. Top tier solid.
I had him bottom tier good. But he's still like he's a leader. He's going to be in the running for 6th man of the year. And he is still a very clutch player too, hitting a lot of those clutch shots for Brooklyn in the absence of Kyrie Irving.
Now let's get some of the lower tier, because we got a lot of good names coming up here. So let's get some of the lower names out. Let's get Terry Rozier out of the way.
Completely forgettable.
Forgettable? Sounds good.
Yeah, with Ball and Devonta Gramps completely overshadowing him, I think he's going to be on the move. I just don't know who wants to take his contract.
I have Steven Adams as my second solid player, but I could very well have him at the bottom of good.
Yeah, I had him at the bottom of good. I think that he is the best offensive rebounder in the league. He is just an extremely strong man. And he provides enough on both ends for a lot of playmakers like Bledsoe and Lonzo, and they'll benefit tremendously off of him.
Now, where do you have Tyler Hero? Because I have him right here.
Tyler Hero was in solid in my eyes. I had him between Hield and Barrett, but yeah, that's fine. I think that he's gonna go through that Jason Tatum cycle of, oh my God, he's only 21. He's basketball savior. The offensive bag is as deep as Kyrie Irving's. And then he's not going to play as well as people think. People are going to write him off. And then a couple seasons from now, he'll be an all-star caliber player.
I think that's the perfect description for his career arc. Moving on, Victor Oladipo. I still think he's an all-star level player. Even if he's checked out, I think he's just at his best, he was a top 3 shooting guard in the league. And I just don't think that even if he's not motivated, he will be an incredibly good player.
So I had him at the very top of good. And I think that he is still a very good offensive and defensive player. And that season where he broke out, this is a bit of a hot take, but he was the second best shooting guard in the league, in my eyes.
What, behind Harden?
Behind Harden, yeah.
And then above Clay. I think above Clay is hard to do, but
Just the
that
way
season.
he led his team to wins, and in the playoffs when he put up a fight against LeBron. And that LeBron team was not very good at all, but he still put up a big fight. And that season, the season when he got injured and those games before, he was playing amazing. So I think that he is still very talented. There's just a lot of question marks around him, his recovery, his whole dynamic with the team. And that's why I couldn't quite justify putting him in All-Star.
I can agree with that. Final four. Who do you want to go with next? Zach LaVine or Trae Young?
Let's go with Zach LaVine.
See, I have Zach LaVine at the bottom of All-Star, but I know you're going to disagree with me here.
Yeah, I had him at the very top of good just because of the fact that I guess I'm going to bring Trae Young into this. I had Trae Young as an All-Star. Partially
I did
because,
not, so
yeah.
That's our disagreement.
So number one, the All-Star voting is a fan vote, and the fans love half-court shots. So there's that too. The impact that he has on our offense is just tremendous. We might not be a good offense with him, but we would be like a historically bad offense without Trae Young. And he is so valuable in terms of scoring and playmaking, and we could not function without him. And then also the supporting cast that he has, his numbers will drive up, his efficiency will drive up, his scoring might go down by 1 or 2 points, but 28 to 26 points per game is still All-Star level. And I think that the defensive liability, well, he still will be a defensive liability given his size and athleticism. It will be less glaring because of guys like Chris Dunn, Rajon Rondo, and even DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, that have shown flashes of, defensive potential. And because of that, his defensive liabilities will be less pronounced. His offensive game will increase, and that's why I have him as an All-Star. We'll put him at the bottom, but I had him above Westbrook.
I had him
above Brown. I had him above Jalen Brown.
I think that's just really harsh to say for Jalen Brown. I think I'm a little bit harsh on Trae Young. I had him right here. But the reason I had him as a good player, not an all-star, is because I think when you talk about the definition of empty stats, he fits the definition fairly well. I mean, Trae Young, 28 points a game and led the 26th best offense in the league. I think what
would that offense be without him?
It wouldn't be good at all.
But that offense would have been 30th by a margin. I'm going to try to find on-off.
I just think that while you're finding that, I'll talk about why I don't think Trae Young's an all-star. And then his defensive impact is abysmal. He could average 30 points a game and he would still be a negative on the defensive end. And that's me. If you're an all-star, you have to be a positive. And if you're a negative, I just don't think you can be an all-star, no matter how great offensively you are. You have to be so good offensively that it doesn't matter about how bad you are defensively. You'll still be a positive. I think you look top to bottom, and he is the highest ranked player with a negative plus minus. And I think that's just really, really – I know he'll be voted as an all-star, and he definitely will be because in a big mark or a relatively large mark, I think the fifth biggest metropolitan area in the entire U.S. And then being a leader of that team and having a big fan base will definitely move him into that all-star conference, moving into an all-star lock. But I think just his overall impact on the team doesn't contribute to wins, doesn't contribute to much team success. And I think that for that reason, his defense puts him good for me, but he'll definitely be an all-star this season.
I think that so first of all, if you just look at the impact metrics, just at face value, his offensive impact, his offensive player impact plus minus, for example, is third in the league behind Luka and James Harden. And now his defense is last in the league, but he's still a positive. But also, third worst in defensive plus minus is Bradley Beal. Fifth is Zach LaVine. Seventh is Devin Booker. And then there are guys like Lou Williams, Donovan Mitchell, D'Angelo Russell, DeMar DeRozan, Gallinari, and even Damian Lillard that kind of round out the top 20, the bottom 25 in defensive plus minus. And what that means is that he is not the only one that is a liability on defense that can still make an all-star game, because he makes such a big impact on the offensive end. I think that the defense, I think it negates the defense, because our offensive rating without Trae Young was 7.3 points less. And offensive rating is for how many points you score per 100 possessions. So without Trae Young, if we had 100 possessions, we would score 7.3 points less, which is saying a lot. And then also his second option, John Collins, last year was out for more than a quarter of the season with his own PED suspension, similar to DeAndre Ayton's. Both had 25 games. He had very streaky, inconsistent rookies. Schroeder was inconsistent, and he didn't really have any depth. And I think that if there's any season to judge Trae Young on whether or not he's truly deserving of that all-star spot, it's this season, when everything is in place for him to completely succeed.
All right, I'll agree with you. I will put him up to here. The fact that you've mentioned guys like LaVine, I definitely can't put him ahead of LaVine now. And then you mentioned guys like Booker. I think Booker, although Trey's a better offensive player, I just think that Booker makes up for it. He's just dead last in defense, though. And as a defensive guy myself, I just really – you can see I built my list really around defense. And Trae Young's team it's just cataclysmically awful. Mm-hmm. And then I think as a player, his ceiling is a little bit less than a guy like Damian Lillard, because his offense makes up for his defense. But he won't be a guy like Steph Curry, who we'll get to, whose offense is great and his defense is fine, is serviceable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think that he's definitely going to be limited by his defense, and the cast they've built around him, it helps a little bit, but it's quite offensive-centric. Gallinari. It is. Bogdan. I mean, not the best front court pairing or back court pairing with him.
Kriston
was a good pair. Kriston was a good signing. That was a really good move. Yeah. Now moving on, we got our final two guys. Sports Center gonna go off with these two guys this season. Which one do you want to hit first?
All right, let's get to Zion first.
I have Zion right here.
That is funny you say. I can't believe I'm saying this to a Pelicans fan, but I have Zion higher.
All right, where do you have Zion?
So do you remember when we were at Jimmy Butler, I put Jimmy in All-NBA and I replaced him with another forward?
Oh my goodness, you put him there.
Now I have Zion in All-Star, and I have him actually behind Kyrie and Booker, but yeah, I have Zion at the very top of All-Star. The strides that he has made in this game, just looking at some of the preseason tape, is just insane. And the amount of just sheer dominance that he brings on the offensive end and even on the defensive end to New Orleans it's hard to see anyone else top that.
Yeah, I think I'm lower on him because I just don't want to be disappointed by Zion. I love Zion so much. He has potential to be here. Not this season, but eventually. I think that he's just such a gifted athlete, and he can easily average 25, 27 points a game. He's incredibly efficient. He gets all of his points, or most of his points, in the paint. I just think as a limited shooter, it's just going to hinder his value a little bit. And then we've seen he can struggle a little bit, but I think that he's got his fitness right, getting his feet underneath him. He only played 23 games last year while coming back from a terrible torn meniscus. No, it wasn't a bad torn. The torn meniscus is just a bad injury. It wasn't a bad torn meniscus itself, just a bad injury. And then not being able to get his footing right, no chemistry with the teammates, he still averages 23 points a game. So, a great player, a lot of hype. So, there's no doubt he'll be an all-star this season. Now, on to the most interesting conversation. Steph Curry. I have him right here. You're going to have him right here. Tell me why you don't think he deserves it.
Wait a second. I want to just... So I actually had Luka as my second, and then I had Curry as my third.
So you have...
So it's not too far.
All right, it's not bad. So I think...
Yeah.
I just think AD's defense bumps him over Luka a little bit. But I guess the fact that I've said Luka's going to solidify himself as the top 3 player, I have to do that. But I think we're good with that. I'm good with that.
He's going to have an explosion. Yeah.
So this is our final list. How do you feel, Ishan?
I'm liking it. I can't wait to... This is pretty much the 4th installment of our NBA, or 5th installment of our NBA kind of predictions series. And I can't wait to just look back on it and see the ones that we got right and see the ones that we got wrong. Watch Markelle Fultz take a jump into the top category. Yeah. And watch Kelly Oubre become the superstar.
Oubre will always never be touched. So if you wanted to make an accurate list, it would look more like that. No, that is more accurate list. But as we know, Oubre belongs in a category to himself. So I will finish it off like that. This how did I move good before? All right, this is our final list. Let us know where you disagree with us in the comments below. And if you want to read more about our NBA predictions, as always, triple threat podcast.com is linked below. Until then, take care.